This is Hunter Wade of the Athletes Lounge podcast. I'm here with my guest.
Hi, I'm Jason Murphy. I'm the director of Top Tier Athletics. Glad to be here, man.
So because you work at Top Tier Athletics and you work at the Ashley Academy, right?
hmm
So I
Yep.
guess what made you know you wanted to have baseball, I guess, adult part of your adult life?
It's the only thing I'm good at, to be quite honest with you. Um, I'm really good at connecting with kids and speaking their language about the game of baseball, not about everything in life, um, but about the game of baseball. I like to try to take the game of baseball and create men out of boys. Um, I think it's what happened to me. A lot of failure goes into that, a lot of beating failure. So I enjoy the hell out of it. There's nothing more that I enjoy than that, quite honestly. I also own or part owner of a lawn and landscape business. Because you can love this as much as you want to, but it doesn't pay all the bills. So
What made you, what makes, Top Tier Athletics so special in your opinion?
development. Um, you'll hear me say some things in this interview that you won't hear a lot of people in this industry say. Um, we try to be different. We want to be different. There's uh, there's a development aspect to this game that has been lost in the travel industry and back into high school, and even we get a bad name. Travel does, because we ruined all of the rec leagues. But there's a reason that people leave rec leagues. I mean, they're not getting developed. I mean, um, I'm not standing up here on a pedestal trying to say we're doing everything right, but we have really tried to put a foundation in place to create really good mechanically sound baseball players in a bunch of different ways. I mean, it's not just fielding the ground ball the right way and throwing it to first base. It's about being as athletic as you possibly can. You can watch any college baseball game or any professional baseball game now, and you're not seeing a whole bunch of unathletic people out there on the field. I mean, they're ripped, they're chiseled. I mean, they're extremely explosive, um, and that's what we try to initiate into young kids and how to build themselves into that. And not everybody's going to be Ronald Acuna Jr., but we try to build that into them and let them know what it takes. And it's not easy sometimes. And our program's not for everybody. Um, we do try to take the kids that are really, really want to be good at the sport. Um, and 8, 9, 10 years old, I mean, we're not as hardcore, obviously, but once they get up to 11, 12, I mean, if this is what you want to do and your parents are paying this kind of money for you to come here and play, it's probably time to start getting after it, get something out of that money.
So I guess what you started Top Tier Athletics, right? Or Top Tier
Well,
Baseball?
I did, but I couldn't have done it without Nevin or Cody Gilbert. Um, they were I mean, they're the owners of Ashley Academy. Um, when I quit, I worked at Toyota for 19 years and decided it was time to leave there, and I called a bunch of people in the baseball industry, a bunch, everybody that I knew, quite honestly, trying to figure out how I could make a living in the game of baseball, because that's what I love. So a lot of the phone calls ended with a dead end. A lot of the people tell you there's no money in this. Um, and they're right. They're not wrong. But um, when I went to Ashley Academy and met Nevin and Cody the first couple times, and I started teaching out there, and then kind of brought it up to them. What if we started something like this? and then had an opportunity from the Indiana Bulls organization to to start a Bulls South. They wanted to kind of branch out. Well, that fell apart pretty quickly, but we already had all the people in place to do that. So we just decided to do our own thing. And at that point, it was Midwest Athletics is what we called it. So we did it. We only had 3 teams. Wanted to start slowly, make sure that we had the right people in place to do it the right way. And we did that for a year. It was pretty successful overall with those 3 teams. So there was a lot of video and stuff out there, and people knew we were doing it the right way. And then I had a good friend of mine that I've known for a long time that I actually knew through the Bulls, Scott French, who actually is over expansion and player development. I mean, he kind of recruits for him too a little bit for top tier national. Like they're based out of Chicago. He called me and he said, "Hey, I know that the thing with the Bulls fell through. Are you still wanting to be part of a national organization?" And I said, "Well, what you got?" And he told me he just took a job with top tier and they're looking to expand and they like what we're doing. And had a phone call with Todd Fine, who's the owner of top tier, and it just kind of went from there. And last year was our first year with top tier. We had 13 teams. And I think this year we're up to 16 or 17. So it's going really well. But when you take your organization to top tier, one of the things that they want to make sure that you're going to do is develop, because that's what they're based on. That's why our relationship works so well. That's what they do. It's a year-round deal. Now, here's where it gets a little. People want to twist what we're doing here. I'm not asking these kids to be one sport athletes. I'm not. All of my kids play 3 sports. But there is one sport athletes out there. I'm not trying to turn you into one. So we have to have opportunities for those kids to work out year round. They pay us good money to be a part of this organization. So we have to have opportunities for kids to work out as much as they can possibly work out. And that's what we do. And getting ready to start Monday, actually. We give them about a month off, and then we get into position specific training starting Monday at 5:30. So
What is your approach to teaching kids? And I'm sure it probably is it's a little different based on age groups, I'm sure. But what's the
uh,
approach?
like I said, 8, 9, 10 years old, it does change. I'm going to coach them a whole hell of a lot different than I'm going to coach a 17-year-old. But a lot of discipline. I don't think kids get as much of it as they used to, especially in school nowadays. I try to give as much of that as I possibly can, and I give all of my coaches free reign for that. And that doesn't mean, whipping them or screaming and yelling in their face. It just means that, there's repercussions if you're messing around, right? Take it serious. Get after it while you're here. If you're not, and then this is at the younger age groups. The older guys, it's more of because all of my guys tell me they want to play in college, every one of them. And I'll have a few come through eventually that will tell me, I just want to be a really good high school baseball player. I don't want to play in college. I want to go be a doctor. And that's fine too. But there's a way to be a really good high school baseball player. And it starts with discipline. It starts with taking what you're doing really seriously. If that's what you really want to do. Because anymore, man, you're not just competing with area guys. There's a lot of kids going to college from Dominican Republic. They're getting kids from all over the country now, all over the world. So you're not just competing with a couple guys here locally to go to Indiana State University. You're looking at thousands of kids with the exact same, body type that you have. What are you going to do that's going to make you different? And making sure they handle themselves correctly while they're at these tournaments when they have eyeballs on them. The kid that really is going to be special is the kid that doesn't have to be at a tournament when eyeballs are on him, that he acts a certain way. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was lucky enough for my oldest son to play with Max Clark. He played with him for 4 years in the Indiana Bulls organization. And the kid gets a tough rap sometimes because he's flamboyant and he has a good time. But I'm going to tell you, there's not a more focused kid that I've ever seen play any sport. I mean, taking care of his body, to the way he approached the game, to the way he approached his workout, to the way he approached warming up, to the way he approached talking to adults, the way he approached talking to his coaches, his scouts, his agents. I mean, everybody that he's ever come across. He's the most professional young kid that I've ever been around. And there's a reason he's where he's at. I mean, everybody's not going to be a Max Clark. They're not. But the quicker you understand that approaching the game the right way and approaching your workouts the right way and approaching having adult conversations with college coaches the right way and looking them in the eye and not looking at your feet when you're talking to them and shaking their hand and all that kind of stuff that has kind of gone away. We try to teach. And I think that makes us a little bit different. I'm not afraid to lose a kid that doesn't necessarily want that, right? Doesn't want that much, and that's fine. Because there's kids out there that don't. But once they get up into the high school age groups, I mean, you really got to start beating that into their head, because eventually, if you want to play in college, you're going to have a man-to-man conversation with either a recruiting coordinator or a head coach or an assistant coach or whoever it is. And the more you impress them by the man that you are, the better chances you're going to have to end up on that campus.
What are some of the issues that you think travel baseball, I guess, currently has?
Yeah. It's a blame game. High school coaches want to blame travel baseball. Travel baseball wants to blame high school coaches. Parents want to blame both. Well, at the end of the day, I mean, the high school coaches, they get a bad rap because a lot of people want to call them lazy. They want to call them, they're not doing enough. We're not practicing enough. And it's not everybody, but I hear it, right? A lot of it is high school coaches think we are making these kids feel like that they should be awarded something, right? Because when you play travel baseball, you pay, right? You're paid. So you're not just going to bench a kid the whole summer and not play him, right? So when that kid goes to high school, he thinks maybe he deserves to play, right? Well, that's not the way it is in high school. I mean, it's just not. But the sooner that we can quit blaming each other and work together, it drives me crazy. Honestly, the stuff that I read on social media, the stuff that's out there, we all want the best for these kids. Every single one of us. I've never met a high school coach that wanted bad things for a kid. I've never met a travel baseball coach in our organization or people that I trust. Now, don't get me wrong, there's bad ones out there, 100%. There's bad high school coaches out there too. But the people that I put myself around, I've never met one that wants anything bad for a kid. So the quicker that we can all start working together for these kids and quit, oh, you just want to be able to send a tweet out that this kid, he's under your umbrella and that he just committed to IU. You want to put your tag on him. That's not what it is. It's not what it is. It's about commending the kid for busting his ass and getting where he wanted to go. And yes, we did help him get there. And he came through this organization, and obviously it's a marketing thing, but that's not what it is. It is based on me wanting nothing but the absolute best for that kid. And it's every one of them. And the kids that I'm the hardest on are the kids that I see the highest ceiling. And yeah, when he gets to where he wants to go, you're damn right I'm proud of it. I'm real proud of it. So we just, as an industry, and that's what it has become. It's an industry. We've got to be better at working together. I mean, you look on social media, and this kind of goes into Ashley Academy a little bit. Like, you got hitting coaches just destroying each other. If you look on Twitter, and it's like everybody's trying to burn everybody down. It's everybody's not going to teach hitting the same way. Everybody's not going to teach fielding a ground ball the same way. But the sooner we understand that every athlete's different and we're going to teach them all differently anyway, then the sooner we're going to be better for these kids as one. So I'm glad you asked that question, because it's I don't know. I don't know what the answer to it is. But the kind of another issue that we have in travel baseball, because there's a few of them. It's a broken system. It is. There's some stuff you read out there that there's a lot of validation to when it comes to how expensive it's getting, and the stay and play side of it. It's embarrassing, quite honestly, how much money that these parents have to spend for their kids to go play in some of these tournaments. But it's once you get to the high school ages and you want your kid to be seen, you got to go to these tournaments where they're going to be seen, right? Well, they understand, that these college coaches understand where all these teams are going to be. So you got to go to these tournaments if you want them to be seen, right? And they're really expensive. So we've got to figure out something sooner than later to make it more affordable for parents. And I'm not sitting here telling you that I'm going to save the world and I'm going to have all the answers and I'm going to fix it, but I'm damn sure going to try to figure something out for my guys anyway, my parents. If it's just getting a few teams and going to a local school and playing, it doesn't have to be underneath the tournament brand. I don't know what it is, but we've got to do better as an industry, right? Because parents shouldn't have to pay this much money to play in tournaments. It's how fast the tournament prices are going up.
And that's almost an issue in every sport. That's a team sport.
And I'm not sitting here telling you the tournament brands are doing anything wrong. It's just everything is getting more expensive. I mean, it's insane. I mean, you got to pay a good umpire now. I mean, you go to these tournaments and there's 30 games going on 30 different fields, 2 umpires per field. That's 60 guys. So you have to pay a premium to get good umpires, or now your tournament brand looks bad because your umpires aren't very good. And it's just, I mean, that's just one issue of it. I mean, just finding enough umpires. I mean, there's JV games getting canceled across Indiana now because there's just not enough umpires. Nobody wants to go do it. Whether the umpire is good or bad, the stuff that they got to listen to. You've been to a high school baseball game recently?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd do it. So it's, I don't know, man. I mean, in basketball, it's the same way. These referees get destroyed, and I'm not in that industry at all. But I've been to games, and I don't know how they get anybody to do basketball game anymore. But yeah, that's the two that I really wanted to speak on when you asked that question. Just we've got to be better as an industry. We've got to make it better for parents, and we've got to start working together. Everybody that has their arm around these kids, they need to work as one for the kid. It's the only way it's going to work.
I think the cost in every travel sport has skyrocketed, and it's been worse than basketball, because technically you don't need any extra equipment in basketball like you do in hockey or baseball, but all the tournament costs have skyrocketed for everything, and everything's just very expensive now for anyone just trying to get in at a casual level who ends up being good.
It's I don't know. Again, I don't know what the answer is, because yes, once you start understanding I'm a parent, right? I've got 3 kids that are pretty good at the sports that they play. So once you see that, if I want my kid to get better at the highest pace he can get, so I'm going to put him around the most competitive people he can be around. And when you do that, it usually is travel sports, And whether that, I mean, we can argue about it. There's people that tell me that it's wrong. Um, but it's just me putting my kids in the most competitive situation they can be in because that's what's going to make them better. And it's expensive. I mean, there's no getting around it.
You mentioned that you contacted a bunch of people once you left Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anyone cool that I guess the audience might know or
Yeah.
that?
And this guy that I'm going to speak on, it's my son just went to. He's a freshman at Indiana State right
Yeah,
now, and I don't followed Indiana State last year through the run when they were in the regionals and the super regionals as a mid major. It just doesn't happen very often. Um, but the first guy I called was Mitch Hannes, and he was my. I played at Indiana State. So did Nevin. Small world. We didn't play there at the same time. I'm a lot older than he is, but Mitch was an assistant coach there, and he is the best motivator, baseball coach I've ever been around. I've been around a lot of baseball coaches now, especially for doing this for 3 years. You're around a lot of people. Um, there's nobody better. He's the head coach at Indiana State now, and he was whenever I ended up quitting Toyota. He was the first phone call I made, and of course he appreciated the fact I reached out. But he's as far as the coolest person. Yeah, his name may not be up there with Albert Pujols or anything, but anytime I have the opportunity to talk to that guy, I learn something every time. And then now that my son's playing there, I talk to him and about what they're doing and in the fall, and I try to stay out of it. I'm not that guy. So, but when my son Carter, he tells me things that are happening up there and what are they doing in the fall, and it's unbelievably impressive. Here's one example. So there's, I mean, everybody has rules and regulations in place for when a coach can be there and when he can't, and when the first day of practice is, and all that stuff. So I called Carter, and this was before practice was officially supposed to start. And I said, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" I'm wore out. I said, "You don't even practice hadn't even started yet." So they they have built something special up there where at 6 o'clock in the morning, the team ran by seniors goes out and gets a full practice in with no coaches. To get a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds at 6 o'clock in the morning before class, before they lift out there. And what Carter told me that was so special, he's like, it was a blast. Nobody complained. Everybody, it's just what they do. And there's a reason they were number one team in the country in defense last year. And that's the reason they go take an hour and a half, 2 hours of ground balls before they even practice. That's not even part of their practice. They do that every day. And that was happening before their official practice even started. But it didn't stop after it started. They still go get the infielders go get an hour extra work in before an official practice ever starts. And it's amazing how when he first got there, they didn't have that kind of success. That's something you build, right? And just talking to that guy, I've learned a lot from him over the years. A lot of it was through me not being the best college athlete and didn't have the right head on my shoulders at the time when he coached me, and he let me know it, and I respected him. I mean, there was times I wanted to fight him, but I never hated him. I respected everything that ever came out of that guy's mouth. I knew he was right. I knew I was wrong. But he's taught me a lot, just as far as the hardcore side of things, as teaching guys how to be men, boys how to be men. He's probably the coolest guy. He's not a big name guy unless you're a big college baseball fan, but every second I get to talk to him, my ears are wide open. I'm going to learn something every time.
So I guess I might know the answer to this. When do you think when a kid's gonna get like a college offer or is good enough to play like at an ISU, for example?
At the Division I level, it's tough anymore, man. with the transfer portal, especially, you start talking about Power Five. I mean, you got to be pretty special coming out of high school, because they can hop on the transfer portal and get a guy that's got 2 years of college experience under his belt already. I mean, that's 2 years of college level coaching, playing. I mean, if JUCO level, I mean, they play in the fall and the spring, so they're getting 100 games in. And that JUCO is really good baseball, really good. So if you get a kid that's got, 200 at bats at a JUCO and he hit 300, I mean, it's hard. It's weird. It's a weird time because it's hard for these guys not to go get that guy over a high school kid. He's got 2 years of college experience under his belt, facing 90 plus every day almost. So you can see special traits in a kid, whether it's foot speed, whether it's the ball just jumps off his bat for whatever reason, whether his hands are just really good or he's just really powerful and explosive. You can see those things. But the amount of kids going D1 out of high school now it's a lot lower than it used to be. And that's just due to the transfer portal. I mean, you get a kid that goes to, I mean, I feel bad for the mid majors right now because I feel like they're AAA for the Power Five. You get a kid, Tommy Tanks. I mean, I could go right down LSU's roster. I mean, I don't know how I don't know that I would ever commit to LSU coming out of high school because you ain't gonna play. They're going to go get the best players in the country, and then you add in NIL money. I mean, LSU. I mean, they're paying these guys. I'm not going to speak on a number because I don't know the exact number, but it's thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
LSU's as a schools use NIL more than anyone else.
Insane. And what you get, Tommy Tanks, North Carolina State, freshman, goes and does what he does his freshman year. I don't know his stats off the top of my head, but I know it's pretty special. And 4 days after the season's over, he's out. And you can't hold it against him because it's life-changing money. I mean, somebody's offering you $800,000 to $1 million to play college baseball versus nothing. And what are you going to do? I mean, I've had this talk with my own son. I mean, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. It's hard. It's going to be hard not to be that guy. Don't get me wrong, because it is life-changing money that some of these people or some of these schools offer. But that makes it even tougher for the mid-majors. I mean, you get a guy that comes into your program, nobody heard of him, a late bloomer, and he comes and he matures a lot and he gets a lot stronger and he turns himself into a dude, and maybe he's the Missouri Valley Freshman of the Year or Player of the Year as a freshman or sophomore. Good luck keeping him, because somebody's gonna write him a check, and it's tough. But to get back to your point, it's fun to assess and it's fun to see the kids blossom. I'm not just a director. I assistant coach my youngest boys team, who's now 14, and then I'm the head coach of the 17U team. So the 17U team is extremely fun. Now, I don't have 16 D1 guys that we go play with.
Yeah.
I've got a couple guys that have the possibility of ending up in a D1 school, and I've got a bunch of guys. Probably the rest of them can end up at a college somewhere. Now, it just depends what level. But just having the opportunity to go play in college, to have a little bit of your college paid for. And the way I look at it, you play this game until somebody tells you can't. That gives them an opportunity to do that. And you go to a D3 school and kill it, and you get an opportunity to move up. You get an opportunity to go end up in a D1 school as a grad transfer your senior year, and you kill it. Who knows? So just having the opportunity to continue to play, continue to progress, continue to get stronger, continue to get better, gives you the opportunity to prolong your career. So that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy finding a place for these guys, or trying. right? I mean, I can't guarantee anything, but I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to the college coaches about guys, and I enjoy I enjoy the honesty of it because I have to be extremely honest with the kids. If I'm not, I'm wasting their time and their parents. If they're sending a bunch of emails out to a bunch of D1 schools and they're not a D1 kid, I'm not doing them any favors. I'm wasting their time when they could be putting their time into JUCOs or D2 or D3 or whatever lane it is. If they're putting their time in there and like really looking for a college where they can succeed and where they can progress, and a college that has their major and something they're interested in, because at the end of the day, baseball is going to come to an end for everybody. And you've got to end up at a school where maybe you don't get that opportunity to play at the next level, which very few do get to. How successful are you going to be as a man in life and in your job? So there's a lot that goes into that, and finding a school that has your lane as far as the baseball team and what you want to do. It's a lot that goes into that. And if I'm wasting your time looking at D1 schools when you're not that guy, then I'm not sure you're going to be as educated as you need to be in your lane. So I do. I thoroughly enjoy that part of it.
You piqued my interest there with the NIL money what we're on for a second ago, because like college sports as a whole are kind of broken. I think it's accepted at this point.
It's broken, and I don't know how you fix it, because I don't think NIL money's going anywhere. I don't, um, especially for the big schools, the people that have the donors, that have they got 9 guys getting drafted every year off their defense. I mean, there's a lot of money that gets poured back into those Power 5 schools. They got the money to spend. They're the ones that generate the TV money. I'm not sure they're going to make a rule to hurt those schools. So it's something that these mid majors and JUCOs, I mean, they're two-year schools anyway, so they've always been that school. But the mid majors, the D2, D3 guys, they're the ones that are really going to get hurt. And it's not just baseball; it's basketball. I mean, I'm a huge college basketball fan. I was a terrible basketball player, but I love watching college basketball. You watch these teams now. I mean, you got grad transfers starting everywhere now. They're going to play. I mean, with COVID, I mean, they had 2 extra years anyway. So now they're playing 5 years at this point. You get so used to seeing that guy playing wherever he came from. And then you turn the TV on, and I don't follow it in the off season. So when college basketball comes on, I'm like, didn't that guy used to play at an XYZ school over here? And now it's just weird. And you don't have to set out a year. You don't lose a year of eligibility. And I mean, and there's people that'll argue, well, the coaches get to do it, so why would we not let the kids do it? They don't have to set out a year. I get that argument, I do, but it is broken, and it's something that these mid majors, it's going to be a yearly battle for them. I know I talked to a guy that after their run was over, the first thing he had to do, and this is a guy from a mid-major school, the first thing, like almost before the bus cooled off when they got home, is call his dudes who weren't seniors and really, really try to get an idea if they're coming back or not, because they earned the right to be looked at by Power 5 schools and maybe get offered some money. And he needs to know as soon as possible. And he's not the kind of guy that's going to tell him, you're an idiot for doing that. But he's got to figure out his team for next year, sooner than later. So it's going to be a struggle for those guys. The guys that can make it work are really good.
That's all I have. Would you like to add anything else?
Yeah, man, I would. I don't think I've done Ashley Academy justice in this interview, with how instrumental they are in everything that we do. I don't have top tier without Ashley Academy. I don't have top tier without Nevin, Ashley. I don't have it without Cody Gilbert. Those guys are phenomenal. Both played the game at the highest level you can possibly play it at. And that's how we teach it to our kids. We try not to dumb it down much. I want to try to teach the game the right way at 8 years old. There's some things you can't do just because their bodies can't do it. But one thing that we like to do is teach them different arm angles right off the bat. Instead of trying to make everybody a cookie cutter, throw over the top. If you're going to play infield, very long in this game, the sooner that you learn all of the right arm actions, the footwork, throwing on the run, all of that kind of stuff. We try to teach it that way. And Nevin and Cody, like I'm the guy, like I have a lot of passion for this. Probably too much. I love it. But I didn't play the game at nearly as high a level as a lot of guys in our program did. I've been lucky to have a lot of guys in our program that played at an extremely high level. And you live in Hobstock, you know one of them.
Yeah.
Eric Campbell.
He's been my next door neighbor.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal infield teacher. And I love it because we're at a point with all these coaches where we're just trying to be as honest as we possibly can. Eric will tell you he's not a great hitting teacher. He could just rake. He never had to listen to a coach growing up. He had it figured out. He could rake, and it's what he could do. But he wasn't very good defensively when he got into the minors, so he really had to bust his ass to get to where he could defensively stay at third base. And so he remembers everything that he was taught, right? And he continues to learn. Like that's what I like that about Eric. I mean, he's getting himself ready for these fall workouts that we have because I let him run the infield stuff because there's nobody better. So he's been looking at new stuff, but he's a phenomenal infield teacher. There's nobody I've seen better. I've had my oldest boy. I was an outfielder, so everything I learned about infield, because both of my kids play infield, everything I learned was either on Instagram or Twitter or just looking it up or listening to coaches. So I can teach it, but Eric can teach it and he can show it. Right? He has this soft hands. He has all the. I mean, he looks the part. I can teach it, but if I go to try to show you how to do it, I'm not going to look the part.
Yeah.
Right. So the honesty of Cody knows he's an outfield guy, and he knows he's really damn good at it. So that's who he is. He doesn't try to come over there, and he comes over there to learn. He wants to learn the infield stuff. Nevin wants to learn. Nevin, nobody's better at teaching catching around here. I don't know of anybody. But he doesn't try to go to the infield and dominate it, right? He doesn't try to go and force his will over there. He goes over there and helps, listens to Eric, sees the drills, helps with the drills, stuff like that. But it's just you check your ego, at the gate, and we try to make these kids as good as we can possibly make them. And none of that happens without those guys. And there's a list. I mean, I feel bad that I'm not even going to start naming coaches because I'll forget somebody, but there's 30, yeah. 40 on depending. And it's not just guys that are going to be a head coach for me. It's not guys that are going to be an assistant coach for me. But during these fall workouts, when you've got 75 kids out there on two fields, you need a lot of just if somebody wants to come out there and hit a fungo, right? Yeah. Somebody wants to come catch in. Someone wants to help pick up balls. I mean, that's what has been so. I've been taken back by the amount of people that want to help and the amount of people that have bought in to what we do and enjoy it and understand that we are trying to do nothing but the best for their kid. There's nobody getting rich here. It's all about the kids. It's all about us teaching the game. It's all about seeing them from 9 years old on a B team to when they're 17, signing a letter of intent to go to wherever, Southern Illinois, USI, wherever it is, whatever their lane is. We talked about that earlier. So that's what gets me excited about this. And then we're only 3 years in, and that only 2 years into top tier. So another thing is how instrumental top tier is to what we do. The network. I mean, I'll get an update on this. We have meetings in Chicago here September 12th and 13th, where all of the directors from all over the country go to Chicago, which is the headquarters, and have a meeting. We sit down for 2 days and just talk the game. And it's no bullshit. It's nobody's trying to make any money up there. It is just 100% talking the game. How can we be better at what we do? How can we be more structured in what we do? How can we give these kids more for the same amount of money? And then everybody brings their own topic with them that they want to talk about. And they give you a forum to get up there and speak on it. And and there's probably 3,000 kids across the country now that play under the top tier umbrella. So that's hundreds and hundreds of really good baseball guys that you get to bounce stuff off of at these meetings. And it's a good time. We have a good time with it. But they've been extremely helpful as far as they're so big. And like the guy that owns it also owns Prep Baseball Report, who I'm repping right here, because I think what they do is really, really good. I think Prep Baseball Report Indiana is one of the best ones out there. Honestly, I think they are. I don't know all of the other guys 100%, but just watching how they operate, really, really good guys there. Todd also owns Prep Baseball Report. So having those ties, are you familiar with Prep Baseball Report?
Yeah, I know what it is.
Okay. So they do a really good job for what they do. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to argue with you that metrics are not necessarily as important as we make them out to be. But that's not what they are doing. There's a lane for what PBR does. And there's the kids that are late bloomers. Obviously, yeah, they don't do as much for those kids, but we're in a world where everything's not fair. So they kind of get a bad rap on that end because it's not fair to a certain, a kid. But for the biggest part of kids, it gives college coaches a place where they can go log in and see where a kid stacks up. It's not end all be all. It doesn't mean this, if you're ranked in the top 10, you're going to be ranked in the top 10 in your conference, whatever school you go to. That's not how that works. It's a place to find kids. It's a place to see videos of kids. I think they do a phenomenal job. So they've helped a lot of my kids out. They've helped my oldest boy out a lot. They put him on the map. So I feel like I owe them this time here, right, to kind of rep them a little bit. I think what they do for high school kids all over the state of Indiana is phenomenal. So having all these people that I'm speaking of not in my back pocket per se, but I have their phone number. I can reach out. I can ask them a question. I can call Cooper Trinkle or Phil Wade at PBR and say, hey man, I got this guy. What do you think? Where do you think he lines up? What kind of school do you see him at? Like, cause I don't know all the answers. I try to be more educated every day on this sport in this industry. So having people like that, all the guys in Chicago, Seth Kinney, Todd, Scott French, who's my recruiting coordinator for top tier. He was a recruiting coordinator at Ball State for a long time. And now he works for top tier, and that's what he does. I mean, he helps these guys get to where they need to be. I mean, I saw it in action this summer with one of my kids. He came and watched him. He's like, that kid's a real dude. He's a real dude. He's a real shortstop, and there's not very many of them. And the next day, same tournament, next day, there's 6 people there to watch him play. There's a San Francisco Giants scout there. There's 6 D1 schools they're watching him the next day. The guy has contacts all over this country, and the contacts that he has, they respect the hell out of him because they know he's a no BS guy. So having guys like that is why we're who we are. It's not because of me. I started it. I try to be the best that I can be, but all of these guys that I've mentioned, and there's hundreds more, honestly, but those guys are why we're going to continue to get better. We're not where we want to be, but I don't think anybody, any coach or guy that runs an organization, whether it's sports or anywhere, if they sit down and tell you that I'm where I want to be. I think we're good here. I don't think they're going to be very good at what they do for a long period of time. So that's what we want to do. We want to keep getting better. And I appreciate you letting me use this format to get us out there a little bit. I do. I appreciate it.
Well, that's all I got, and I think that's all you got, right?
That's it.
Okay,
That's it.
well, this has been Hunter Wade at the Athletes Lounge podcast, and that's all I got.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Hey guys, this is Hunter Wade at the Athletes Lounge podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe where you can. Thanks.